2 years ago, you asked me, why don't we address disrupting the CRO? And I'm so pleased to say we finally just did it.
We sure did.
But tell me why you felt this was an important subject to address.
Well, I think, in today's environment where so much time is spent talking about disruptive innovations, particularly related to our field, the pharma industry, clinical development, that we often don't take the time to take a step back and say, what role or part does the CRO play in, that disruptive innovation life cycle, if you will. And so I was very excited, that we had the opportunity today to have, 4 top-tier CROs represented in a way where they felt comfortable and free to talk about what the future might look like and the various different things that they may be doing to disrupt the norms.
Right, so the old adage is either disrupt or be disruptive. Somebody will disrupt you. How do you feel about that with regards to CROs?
I think what's happened in the last couple of years is that the individual CROs have looked internally and said, what can we do to be more innovative? What can we do to be more disruptive? I think what should be, maybe folks should have their radars on is the disruption that can come from the outside. There's been quite a few companies that have engaged with Google and talked about, how they can wrap their heads around some of the big data informatics platforms. I know, Covance and Quintiles both have robust informatics platforms that we're actively marketing to our sponsors. So I think just being cognizant and aware that the disruptions, while some of them come internally, oftentimes come externally as well.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what were you most pleased about with the panel? What did you feel came out of it that could lead to new conversations for this industry?
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. I think, there were little things that excited me about the panel, but there were some big things also. So the little things were, we didn't have any slides. We weren't hunkered down. We weren't scripted. It was very free-flowing. The conversations and the responses, I felt, didn't come off as prepared or contrived in any way. In terms of the big things, just the fact that we had senior leaders from 4 different CROs sitting together talking openly, it just doesn't happen very much. I think we're sort of on the brink of a new era where some of the personalities behind founding CROs have moved on, and taken the next steps in their careers or their lives. And they've left behind a generation of people that have worked in both pharma, biotech, maybe multiple CROs, and are much more open-minded about talking in a collaborative way with other CROs, even if we might be competitors.
I noticed that one of the topics that stood out in terms of the most sort of passionate response had to do with the future of management. Can you just give us a summary of what was said?
By way of background, I'd like to share, when I was on the sponsor side, particularly my days at Celtic Therapeutics, running a virtual development model, we had a lot of discussions with the top 5 CROs. And what was amazing to us was that we always got the sense that senior management really understood what we were trying to do from a virtual drug development perspective. But the penetration of that message throughout their organizations was always a glaring challenge.
Andy Lee from Merck mentioned, as an industry, we're not spending more on R&D, we're pretty stagnant. He also talked about, well, there's a lot of pressure on CROs to continually to increase their profits. So how does that happen when you have both those situations?
While R&D spending is remaining flat, I think the level of outsourcing is still increasing over time, a few % every year. So that bodes well for the CRO space. But I think, from a profitability perspective, it's really going to come down to how can we innovate to do faster, more economical clinical trials. I think we dabbled on a couple of topics today that could prove to be disruptive in our space, right? If we can get the CROs leading the charge in terms of patient registries or taking more of a forefront in helping pharma companies and biotechs collaborate across common protocols, fewer placebo patients. If we can get better around matching up the right patients with the right studies, all of those things, I think the CRO has a unique opportunity to be on the forefront and the leading edge, which should help costs come down in the long run.
Well, I'm glad the conversation's happening. What are you excited about for the future of CROs and the collaborative relationships with pharma?
Obviously, our combination with LabCorp is going to give us a unique access to millions and millions of patient lives. But I think all of that is sort of leading us down this road of how do genomics and biomarkers play a critical part in the personalization of medicine.
Okay, all right. So thank you so much.